What's up, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Scythe, and today I am going to try my best to give a brief but in-depth description as to why I use Bandicam as my primary recording software. This is the Bandicam interface right here. You can purchase the program for about $40, so that is definitely not cheap for recording software, but it has some great advantages over other recording software that I'm going to explain in a moment. So first of all, we'll just go to the general settings right here. I guess I should talk about the things that are up here. So as you can see right here, I actually have selected rectangle on screen recording. Now what that means is I actually have this rectangle, like what you're seeing on the screen is actually only a small portion of my monitor that I have selected in a window. So I can actually move things in and out of this window as I choose. It is fantastic for recording certain games that you cannot record in full screen, especially older games that don't necessarily use DirectX and stuff like that. Now this of course would just be using the DirectX/OpenGL window, and this is just recording the game in full screen, which you are going to have to do with certain games. This little hotkey right here, of course, opens the output folder where you actually have all your things saved. This is taking a screenshot, which I have tied to a certain hotkey. You can also pause recording. Now, this is a feature that I don't necessarily use that much because it doesn't give you that much options for editing. But I remember when I was first using this program, I found it to be invaluable because rather than having to stop your recording and start it and stop it and start it, especially if you're playing a game that you're not very familiar with, I remember having to use this feature quite a lot when I was doing my BioShock Infinite series, but it allows you to pause the recording while it's still recording it to the same clip, so that after you're finished with your recording, you won't necessarily have to splice 50 pieces of video into one file. And ignore the rendering going on in the background, by the way, because I just figured while I'm rendering I can't record any games, so I thought I would get into this. Now you can also see right here that the size of the file, despite the fact that this is actually a very high quality recording software, it actually does a fantastic job compressing files while it's recording. So with that said, you're probably going to need some decent CPU and RAM to actually run Bandicam efficiently. Now in the general settings, it's just got general stuff. You can choose the output folder. You can tell Bandicam window to always be on the top, start minimized in the tray, run Bandicam on Windows startup, and then a bunch of other options. You can also set up an auto recording and a timer, which is pretty fancy. I've never actually used it though, except for in certain instances way back when my computer didn't have the hard drive space to actually handle this. Now, as far as my video settings are concerned, I have the record and stop key set to home. My pause key is set to end, although I never ever use that anymore, and you can actually tell it as well to show your mouse cursor or not, add mouse click effect. So if you put that on, you can actually, oops. Well, I guess I would have had to start it before I started the video or something. I don't know. But you can also, here's a very handy feature, especially for people just starting out, is you can actually add a webcam overlay. Now what that actually does, if you go into the settings over here, we'll get into this in a minute, is you can actually tell it to add a webcam overlay, the video file size of it, or the video size. I only have a crappy webcam, so I don't actually use it. I use a separate camcorder for my face cam stuff. But you can tell it its position. You can just, it's a very amazing feature that I actually remember talking about. Man, this would be fantastic if there was a recording software that would integrate webcam recording directly into the video. Now, personally, I wouldn't recommend this for people that are a little bit more in depth about rendering and editing and stuff like that, because this takes away some options. So if we had the webcam up here in the top left corner, that means we would have no option to edit and take it out of the screen or anything like that. The face cam would be on all the time. Now, this can be good for some people, but not for someone like me where I like to use a lot of chroma keying and make the background invisible. You can also actually put a logo over the video, so you could have a little watermark over in the bottom of the corner of the screen. Again, this takes away your option for editing it, but for a lot of people just starting out, these features are absolutely amazing. Here's a couple more features, which, oh, that's why the mouse click didn't work, because I don't have any color set for it. Of course, in the options too, you're going to want to set it to the highest task so that it's recording like crazy and forcing it to capture and recording. Now, this is one of the biggest features that actually attracted me to this recording software in the first place, is you can actually record separate audio tracks. Now, what this means is right here, we actually, when we save a file, like let's say we record it, right? So we're going to actually, oh, I can't actually go into the Bandicam folder right now, but let's see right here. There we go. So prime example right here. This is some Trove footage right here, right? So I record it and it puts out, this is the video file. Then here is the audio track that is my microphone. And here's the audio track that is the game. Now, the biggest advantage to this, if you don't already know and are just sitting there thinking how awesome that is, you can also set it to all sorts of different things if you have other external plugins and everything like that. The biggest point of this is because for somebody like me, I couldn't be bothered to go into a game, and I mean, any Let's Player will tell you that it is actually very annoying to go into a game, record a few seconds, and try to balance the game audio with your microphone. This gives you the option to change all of that post in editing rather than having to do it all live and get it all pitch perfect. You can also, of course, do sound mixing, which means that it is going to go into one audio track, so that will work for you. You can also have a secondary recording thing, blah, blah, blah. Very handy feature. That was the biggest thing that I actually was attracted to when using this program. Now, as far as my format goes with recording, I've actually been messing around with this only a lot more recently, because I always ran into problems when I was doing this stuff. So right now, you have all sorts of different options and stuff. I don't actually want to mess with too many of these. I don't know if we can right now because it's recording, but I'm actually using you want to pretty much always use the H.264. That is the easiest video format for a rendering software. Like I use Adobe. But this is the file type that is going to be easiest for the program to recognize. Now for your frame rate, I pretty much always stick to 29.97 because I know that there's a lot of people out there that try to push the whole 60 frames thing just because YouTube can support it. But I've always been the mind where it's like, I remember even thinking way back, like it's like, 60 frames on YouTube. That seems kind of pointless outside of competitive gaming. And that is because when you are trying to make like a video that somebody is going to watch, especially if you're someone like me and you use your face cam, if you're just using solid gameplay, then you can get away with 60 frames for sure. But if you're someone like me who uses a face cam, 60 frames just looks weird. And that's because movies in Hollywood and stuff like that are actually shot in 24 frames per second. 30 frames is what the human eye is also very used to as far as video software and stuff like that, like watching videos. Like if you ever go into like a Walmart or something like that, or a Future Shop, and go into the electronics section, sometimes you will see a TV screen that's playing at 60 frames and it looks like it's in fast motion. That's what 60 frames looks like. So unless you're just solid gameplay, you're pretty much not going to be able to get away with it if you're using a webcam, because otherwise it's going to look really, really weird. Now, if you're going to end up using this, copying my settings right here, this is pretty much one of the highest settings that you can have with Bandicam, other than using like a full-on lossless recording, but then goodbye to your hard drive space. But anyway, when you go into the video one right here, which is what I'm using, one of the things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to leave all of this, of course, but where is it? There was a special setting. I think it's actually in the audio settings or something like that. Okay, so here it is. This is something that you are going to want to do. Even though it says use variable frame rate and it's recommended, if you are someone like me who uses Adobe, and I don't know if this actually works with other recording software and stuff, but you're going to want to have constant frame rate. And the reason for that is because if you don't have that selected, that means that your audio and video are going to go out of sync. I don't know why that happens, but it's got to do with, well, actually I do know why it happens. It's got to do with the video and the audio are both being recorded at different frame rates. Certain software compensates for it, but I know for a fact that Adobe doesn't. I don't necessarily know about other editing software though. Of course, you can also choose the quality too. I just keep it at 100% because my computer can handle it. As for the audio codec, you're gonna want to go to AAC. For the bit rate, there's no reason to go any further than 192 unless you're crazy. And even for the frequency, technically you can get away with going at 44-100 because 44-100 is actually the highest frequency that the human ear can actually hear up to. So 4800 is pretty much absolutely useless, other than just giving you better options for when the video is going to be compressed after editing, and rendering it out. So that's kind of why you want to record it at the highest quality. Now, as far as the image is concerned, I just have my hotkey for taking pictures. It's numpad plus. You can tell it to repeat screen capture, show the mouse cursor in the picture. So that's a nice little separate thing. You can also enable a shutter sound, which I actually found to be very funny in a lot of my earlier videos and stuff. Turok 3 in particular, during that series, I used it to take screenshots during like really tense moments. So it was always really, really funny. You're pretty much always going to want to save it as a bitmap because that is pretty much like the highest quality file you can get for your images. Because if you're using JPEG, I mean, you know JPEGs, they end up having a lot of artifacts and stuff like that. And PNGs, though good, are not necessarily the highest quality for what you're actually wanting to use it for, you know? Pretty much that's already it. The output is just the output file. And of course you can actually use Bandicam's editing software and rendering and stuff like that. But I just use Adobe, and I'm going to make a separate video that actually shows my editing technique for Adobe, as well as another video I'm going to make about my behind the scenes with YouTube and stuff. But anyway, I hope you found this video helpful, ladies and gentlemen, in deciding whether or not you actually wanted to use Bandicam. I've been using this software since day one, pretty much. Like, I tried using Fraps, I tried using DxTory. That said, the biggest reason that I'm using Bandicam is because a lot of the features that it had placated to how I treat my content and how I edit my content. So it's not going to be for everybody, but it certainly is for a lot of people. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you found it helpful. Sayonara and stay epic.